All right, Denker. So, welcome to the Locked On NHL podcast. It's round one, it's the playoffs. So, it's pretty simple what we're going to be talking about today. We're getting towards the end of these first round series, but none of them are wrapped up yet. Which ones could be now, and which ones are going to be wrapped up here momentarily? New episode of Locked On NHL coming at you with Denker's dogs getting let out.
For Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Locked On NHL podcast. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. From Locked On Avalanche, I'm Chris Maselli. With me, as always, on the Thursday edition from Locked On Lightning, Mr. Adam Denker. Thank you for making this your first listen of the day. Always appreciated for doing that. Yeah, man, so it's obviously playoff time. We're in the midst of round one. And like I said in the open, like nothing is wrapped up yet, but things could be. They could, and that's the beauty of hockey, and that's why I love this game so much is, yeah, the teams that you thought were going to wrap things up haven't yet. And with the exception of the Rangers and Devils, it's the only one that is being played Thursday night that can't be wrapped up, right? So, and all the other ones, there's the potential for it, and you've had teams that have had the opportunity, like surprisingly the Boston Bruins. That one is, I think we all in agreement that they should win this thing, right? But did anybody really think Florida could push the Boston Bruins to 6 games, maybe even 7 if they can win it on home ice?
Yeah, that was surprising. The fact that they even won in overtime in Boston tells
Their
you
2 wins have been in Boston.
I know, it's insane.
That's crazy. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
They've been on an absolute tear the last couple of months. And even then, I think going into the playoffs, at least me, well, I'm biased, so don't count my opinion, but I thought they were going to get swept. And they're proving everybody wrong. These are the kind of runs that we see at least once a year where you can't help but root for these kind of runs and for the teams that are behind them.
Yeah, I mean, you have when I did my brackets, I typically don't pick anybody to sweep. I think that's very difficult to pick. But if you were to ask me, and I said this at the time, if you were to ask me if you had to pick one series in the first round that you thought was going to be a sweep, which would you pick? I think most people would go the Bruins route, right? But you're right. I think people forget, and I say this all the time, and I didn't even listen to my own advice. It's all how you end the season. And the way that the Panthers ended the season was on a good tear. So should we be surprised at this? I mean, yes and no. No, because they played so well to end the season. And maybe yes, because the Bruins just played well throughout the entirety of the season.
Yeah.
I think everybody was just thinking like, yeah, because of the sport and because you might be able to win a game here and there. But still, like the Bruins, just that historical season that they had, it's a shock to me that it's gone this to 6 games. Maybe even more of a shock is, like I just said, that they win both of those games in Boston, where they were just untouchable this year. So to lose 2 in a short amount of time on their ice, that's a shock to me. So I don't know. I think when you're playing at home, obviously you get that little bump. So do you think this thing goes 7?
I mean, at this point, why not? I just think that, I got to watch a little bit of the game the other night when they won in overtime. This team looks confident. And Bobrovsky looked very good in net. And as we all know, the cliche is a lot of playoff runs are really dictated by the play of the goaltender. And if Bobrovsky or whoever, because I know they've switched out goaltenders here and there throughout the series, but if they're able to get steady goaltending, why not?
Yeah, that's the big thing in the playoffs is goaltending, obviously, right? So, and maybe the other big surprising one right now is I hate to bring this one up with all the paraphernalia you see behind me. I think that's the other one that is shocking people right now is the Kraken bringing the Avalanche to the verge right now. And they're going back to, it's kind of like the opposite of what the Panthers, I mean, the Panthers are going back hoping to push a game 7. They're going back home, hoping to push a game 7. The Kraken are going home, hoping to clinch this thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much you've been watching this series, but if you're an Avs fan, you're not feeling good. Not because they're down 3-2. If they were down 3-2 and every game was just back and forth, and it was just one of those things where a fluke goal is going to win it for you, and both teams are playing well, you could be like, all right, I feel like, the Avs will have a chance going into this game. But this entire series has really been dominated by Seattle.
Yeah.
Really from top to bottom. There's been moments where the Avalanche will take control. But I would say, if you're breaking up into 100%, I'd say 75% of the time the Kraken are in control of these games, and the other 25 the Avalanche are. It's been very surprising to see Seattle pretty much do what they want to do, and offensively and defensively against Colorado. And Colorado has what they have the injuries. They have the Val Nichushkin issue, which is kind of a mystery right now.
Yeah.
But nobody's going to use that as an excuse, because you had all those injuries and problems during the regular season and you won the division. So you can't suddenly just use those as an excuse now. But that's the beauty of the game, though, is as poorly as the Avalanche are playing, they have a shot. You always have a shot, but like I said, you don't feel confident going into this game against Seattle right now. I would be lying if I said I did.
Well, let me ask you, Chris, for all the East Coasters here that haven't stayed up like yours truly to watch these games.
Yeah.
What has really been the Achilles heel for the Avalanche? I mean, well, you kind of already spoke about it, but so let me actually transition to the other side. What has it been about Seattle's game that has really been the difference maker? I'm looking at the games thus far: 3-1 in game 1, 3-2 overtime win in 4, 3-2 win game 5. So it's not like they're scoring a ton of goals.
No,
it seems as though if they keep it a low scoring game, they have a shot. So really, is that really kind of what's part of it, or is it more so on what the Avalanche aren't doing?
Yeah, if you look at like the stats and the scores and everything's pretty tight. Like you've had an overtime game that Seattle won. Most of the games are close games, but that's like, that's just the eye test of looking at stats and things on paper. If you're watching it on television, it's a completely different ballgame. And the Kraken are really exposing the Avalanche lack of depth right now. They really are. The Kraken have it, and the Avalanche don't. And it's been a problem for the Avs for most of the season. And when you play the regular season and you're jumping from team to team to team, not every team can exploit your lack of depth. Seattle is doing that. And when you're playing that team game after game, it's hard to correct that. You can't go out and sign a guy right now. You can't, you know what I mean? Like there's no help is coming for the Avalanche. You have what you have. And the Kraken can roll out 4 lines confidently, and the Avalanche can't do that right now. It is a top heavy team. And you knew that. You knew that's not a mystery. You knew you were going out without Gabe Landeskog. And now Josh Manson seems like he's hurt. Maybe that's a blessing in disguise, because he's had a horrid series. It's not said if he's going to play in game 6. I can't imagine he does, just the way that this season has gone. So I don't see him coming back. Val Nichushkin, it's a big mystery on what's going on with him. So he's not there. And then you had Cale Makar get suspended for this past game, for game 5. So that's a huge hit. You do get him back for game 6. So that's a plus, obviously. But the Kraken can match the Avalanche speed. Right. And not many teams can. The Avalanche are a fast team. And the Kraken are faster right now. And we mentioned goalies, and Philip Grubauer is just hitting another level right now, which is what you want your goalie to do. Alexander Georgiev for the Avalanche, he's playing fine. But they just can't get anything going. The Kraken are winning every single puck battle. They're standing them up in the neutral zone. They're not giving them any lanes to shoot. They're blocking Seattle is playing a perfect game right now. If you're a Kraken fan, it's impressive to see. If you're an Avs fan, you hate it because it's frustrating. because they're an offensive-minded team and they just can't get anything going. They just can't get a steady run of confident and like cycles and line after line of just like, okay, the last line picked up where the line that came off left you.
Yeah.
It's a crazy series right now, and it's all Seattle. So that's where we stand with those. I want to talk about your boys because they're on the brink too. But do they have Toronto right where they want them with a 3-1 Toronto lead?
This was all part of the plan, Chris.
All part of the plan, of course. First, let's hear from Built Bar. And if you are looking for a delicious snack but don't want all of the sugar and calories, then you need the best tasting protein bar literally ever. And that's Built Bars. You got to try them. If you're like Denker and you're like myself, you want to make healthier snack choices, but you don't want to compromise on taste. So we have just the thing for you, Built Bars and Built Bar Puffs. They're healthy and they taste amazing. And why do they taste so good? Because they're covered in 100% real chocolate, and they have great flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, and cookies and cream. And right now you can obviously order at built.com and you can use the promo code LOCKED15. But if you don't want to wait, you can head into your local Sam's Club or Walmart and pick up a box of Built Bars. Take home with you right now. So if you're close to a Sam's Club, run in, grab a 13-bar box of the hit flavors Brownie Batter Puff and Churro Puff. Get in on the Built Bar craze, and you can thank us later. All right, sir. Let's. I got 35,000 reasons why I want to hear about your Tampa Bay Lightning right now. So, where are you with it? Like, are you like with me? Like, you're not so confident right now. You're down 3-1.
Yeah,
Avs are on 3-2. But how do you feel about how you? I got to give you credit because you were calling this even after game one, even after that game one win of Tampa. You were not like series in the bag. You were like, and all along we've been doing this show on Thursdays. You've been saying, I don't like how Tampa is playing.
Yeah.
And has that just carried over into round one?
Oh, absolutely. I think after game 4, which we'll get to in just a bit, I've tweeted out saying that this game, it's really been games 3 and 4, have really been the culmination of what I've been basically complaining to you about all season long, Chris.
Yeah.
All the flaws, all the lack of depth, all the things that this team has failed to address throughout the regular season, or really, I wouldn't say that they failed to address. I think a better way to phrase it is that they've put a Band-Aid on, and you've seen it been exploited through every step of this series. And some people might look at that and say, well, if the Lightning just hold on for 3 and 4, the tables are turned. We're now talking about Toronto blowing it for another year instead of Tampa up against the wall. And, they would be absolutely right to say that. I mean, Tampa, even though they're down 3-1, which I will compliment them on, they have been there with Toronto every step of the way. But their main issue, and this goes back to their mistakes that they've made, just getting their foot off the pedal in the latter stages, has been their inability to play a full 60-minute game, other than game 1, which we'll throw to the wayside because we kind of figured these first 2 games were going to be huge, high-scoring games back and forth, and that's exactly what they were.
Yeah.
But yeah, as you saw it in the closing minutes, in game 3 and then game 4, this team just wasn't able to keep up. And at the same time, I could sit here and make excuses and say the Lightning didn't do this, the Lightning didn't do that. Toronto has played really, really well. Even when they were down 4-1 in game 4, the one thing that really stuck out to me about them that they did well is that they didn't look panicked. They didn't look worried. And their superstars came up. Austin Matthews had 2 goals in that third period. William Nylander has been a thorn in the side for the Lightning the last 2 years. John Tavares has played well. Mitch Marner has played well. ex-Avalanche player, I believe Alex Kerfoot, had the overtime winner in that game. So, and that's not even mentioning the goaltending position, Ilya Samsonov, who has played phenomenal.
Right.
So, as not as much as I want to bash on the Lightning, Toronto has played way better than I think that at least their fans would have expected them to.
Was it, especially in game 4, with that comeback, sometimes you just get a vibe, like, even though like Tampa was like, it was 4-1. Did you just get a feeling that after the to make it 4-2, like, okay, because how much time there was, what, 9 minutes left?
It was like 10 minutes midway through the third.
Yeah. Did you feel like, how do you feel? You're like, okay, you have the best goalie on the planet. All right, he gave up a goal.
Yeah.
But sometimes you just get that vibe, it's like something's brewing here, and this is not over. This is far from over, even though you're still up 4-2, only, a handful of minutes to go.
I was going to actually tweet it out at that point, but I didn't want the wrath of Lightning Twitter to fall onto me. After the first goal to make it 4-2, Toronto started to just pepper Vasilevsky blocker side, which, as everybody knows by now, is the weakest part of his game, is blocker side. And
where I always go.
Once Toronto started doing that, instead of tweeting it out, I just said it out loud to myself alone. I said, I have a bad feeling about this.
Shout it into the void.
Yeah. And now we are talking about them blowing a 3-goal lead. And it was just one of those situations where, and this didn't really magically start in the third period, Chris. This started at the second intermission. As all Lightning fans know, and this will probably go down in Lightning history, especially if they lose this series, Brandon Hagel was interviewed between periods. And I don't remember the exact wording, but he did along the lines say that the game was wrapped up at that point.
No.
And
did he really? I gotta find that. I didn't see that.
And the game was by no means wrapped up. And so, and that was the problem for this team. I think that they took their foot off the pedal. I think that once you have to start, and you've seen it with your team, I'm sure at one point, it's really hard to get things going in the beginning of the game. But once you've kind of taken your foot off the pedal midway through the game, it's really hard to get things going when you're in that panic mode. And you kind of saw it from the Lightning. They were very low energy. And which is weird that this whole thing spawned, because early on in that period, their puck possession was almost immaculate. So
what do you think? Is this is Toronto going to end this thing, or
no?
Tampa still fighting them?
I think that Tampa will be able to steal one. Everything that's been coming from the guys over the last couple of days, they're confident. I really liked what I've heard out of Andrei Vasilevsky the last couple of days. Normally, he's just very kind of like even keel, very vanilla with his statements. But I thought it was very telling of where he's at right now. The other day when they were talking about, is it difficult for you, discussing just the difficulty of all the traffic that he's had to deal with in front of him in game 3 and 4. And he came out and said, what am I supposed to do? Buy effing X-ray glasses? And coming from a guy like that, and well, really anybody on this team, but coming from him especially, and then, just hearing just the vibe around this team, I think they're ready. I think they're dialed in. I think really the first period is going to be very telling of where this team is at and if they got it. Because if the Lightning get the lead early on, I think Vasilevsky is going to close the door. I'm not saying he's going to pitch a shutout, but I think you're going to see a flash of what we've expected of him in the last couple of years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there is that possibility that both teams from the Stanley Cup final last year are out in the first round.
When was the last time that happened?
I don't know. We'll have to. I just kind of realized that, so I didn't really. I didn't effort to see when the last time that has happened. Couple more series I want to talk about as we wrap this episode up. But first, we're going to talk about eBay Motors for Championship Team. It's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit, something that the Avalanche are struggling with right now. And it's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure every part you need fits right the first time around. Just add your ride to My Garage and look for the green check to know that the part will fit or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. So get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices at ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. And eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only, and exclusions apply. All right. Can't go an episode without talking about McJesus. So we have to bring up the Edmonton Oilers and the Kings. So that series just seems I feel like a lot of these series are just destined for 7 games. I feel like that one is. I feel like the Stars and the Wild are. And it seems like the Devils and the Rangers. Like no series is wrapped up yet, and it could be all of these series go 7 or none of them do. That's the great thing about the playoffs. I just get a feeling that those 3 that I mentioned, the Oilers, Kings, Devils, Rangers, Wild, Stars, just seem like they are going 7. But talk about the Oilers and Kings right now. Do you think that one could get wrapped up? That one is going to be on, I don't think they play till Saturday. Let me see. Yeah, they don't play till Saturday. Man, that's a long break for.
It's a weird.
Why is
schedule.
that? You play. I mean, usually you play every other day. Oh, you know why? Okay, because you're playing in an arena where like every single sports team in the state of California plays in, and you have the Lakers and the Clippers, but the Clippers are out, I think. Right?
Yeah, they got eliminated the other night, I believe.
But I think those games were scheduled, and I don't think you can't reschedule at this point in the game. So they played Tuesday, and they don't play till Saturday. That is a big break for playoff hockey. That's dumb. I mean, I get it, but
that's weird. That's
go build your own arena, Kings.
Even for the NHL, where they're very unorthodox with their scheduling. Yeah. I just think that, especially for the playoffs, that can't happen.
That's crazy.
Like imagine if the Lakers and the Kings are in the finals in their respective sports. What are the Kings not going to play for a week? Like,
I mean, it's probably a little bit easier if you just have like those 2 teams, because you can just alternate and figure that out. But when you get 3 teams playing in one arena, and all 3 of them make the playoffs, that's tough. That's tough. But I don't know. What do you think? Is this Oilers going to wrap this thing up on next year when they finally play this game, or what?
I think I think they could wrap it up. I don't know how you don't take this team with. I haven't really been following it closely. I've just been seeing some of the tidbits here and there.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at it right now. Leon Draisaitl has 6 goals.
He's a beast right now.
And I don't know if it's still going on, but he's been on the ice for like the first 14 goals that Edmonton had in this series.
I don't know if that's still yeah,
because he has 10 points total in this series. And yeah, I mean, the only thing that I've been hearing from this series that hasn't surprised me was that the Oilers are kind of already mulling over goalie changes, which because I think Skinner played the other night because I think Campbell got hurt during the game or something of that sort. But Campbell, just by the numbers, looks like he's playing well. I think leaving Toronto definitely has something to do with that. Mm-hmm. His save percentage is at .964. But yeah, I just think that this is the year. Last year was a huge step for this team. And I think we spoke about it last week, where if they didn't run into your guys, they could have. I think they would have had a very good job at beating Tampa. Very good chance at beating Tampa. But I think that this is where we see it go to another level, if that's even possible. Where if and this might be a little bit of a crazy prediction, But if the Oilers win the Stanley Cup, it's going to be because of 97 and whatever number Leon Draisaitl wears.
29. 20.
I think
Yeah.
we're going to see the first instance, at least since Lemieux and Yager, to have a team completely carried by two guys to a championship.
Yeah, it may be strange to say it this way, but I kind of want to see Edmonton do something like this, like close out a series on the road, right? Like that just will just propel you even further going into the playoffs. That not that you can't win on the road, but to end a series on the road, just going into their arena and sending them home. Like they don't have to travel very far, obviously.
Doesn't that show you from like the outside looking in for that a team like that, if they win on the road and they close a series out on the road, like they're ready?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I've always really felt that way. Like if a team does that, they're not to be messed with. Like nothing rattles them, right? So if they can do that, that's just, I think that, that's a nice little, like, notch in their belt of, we can go anywhere and just finish things off if we need to.
And plus they don't have to wait till like November to play the last game in LA, so
yeah. I mean, we'll see. Rangers and Devils seems like the road team is the only one that wants to win in this series so far. I when we did the episode going into the playoffs and we were kind of picking our series, I struggled with this one the most. I did it. It was 7 games, no matter what, to me, and I kept going back and forth on who I thought was going to win. I think in the end I did pick the Devils. I have to double check. That's what I'm saying. Like I can't even remember who I picked because I had them so close. I'm almost positive I picked the Devils in 7. But how it started was kind of what I was like. This is a Devils team that hasn't been here in a long time, especially these guys so young. I thought maybe like the moment was going to get to them. It did, but then they learned from it, and you got to learn quick. You grow up quick in the playoffs, right? So they had 2 games at home that were horrible, and then they learned, and you're going into MSG, and you're like, okay, like we had a 2-game learning experience, and let's get back to business, and that's what they've done. So now, do they continue that, or do the Rangers and the veteran presence that they have, do they turn it around and be like, hey, this is what didn't work at home. Now we're going back to your place, and we're gonna turn the tide again. I think that's what you're going to get in this series. I'm loving this series right now.
Yeah, you brought up a good point, how everybody really thought that this was going to be kind of the experienced Rangers versus the very talented yet very young and inexperienced New Jersey Devils. And like you said, we saw that in the first 2 games. And then something flipped with this team, as kind of like what we always see with teams in the playoffs, when they kind of just like come out of that first 2-game coma where they're just overwhelmed by everything. And you see, and I really think a large part of it has to do with Jack Hughes and the fact that I think that especially the last game, game 4, the Rangers have just kind of just fallen asleep at the wheel, where, it's one thing to kind of do that during the regular season, Chris, but to do that in the playoffs, and then on top of that, your head coach calls you out in the post-game presser, where
he was not happy.
he said, and I am loosely quoting, but he said, I liked what the kid line was doing and Igor, and that's it.
And everybody else can go pound salt.
Yeah.
That's basically what he said.
And I think now, in this, I don't feel like this is too far-fetched, but I think now, especially after that game, I think all the pressure has shifted onto the Rangers, because you're now in a series where I think 90% of hockey fans expected them to win this. Now your back's up against the wall. You get embarrassed at home, and now you have to win 2 straight before now you even have way more pressure in a ridiculous Game 7 scenario.
Mm-hmm. I had a friend of mine text me, a big Rangers fan, and he's one of those guys that like doesn't watch any other game during the regular season. He only watches the Rangers, right? So he's not like, he doesn't know, like he knows of who, your superstars are and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But he sends me a text message and he's like, how is this this Jack Hughes guy so good. He's 100 pounds. And I'm like, I know, man. Like he's undersized, but he knows how to play the game. I'm like, you're gonna be in for it in this series. And he was just amazed he's just looking at his his size and knowing like, and then he looks up his stats. He's like, how is he, for all intents and purposes, 100-point scorer for this shit? Like he's not imposing at all. I'm like, it's where skill takes over, man. I don't know what to tell you. Like, he's not. You look at his frame and you're like, just push this guy anywhere you want. It doesn't happen. Like he's slick. He's a slick guy.
The thing that I noticed with him, really, Chris, is that with him, when he's playing well, the entire team plays well.
Oh,
you kind of saw it in Game 4. Like he's flying around. Jesper Bratt's flying around. Dawson Mercer's playing well. List goes on of these players, and even the goaltender. We haven't even spoken about him. Akira Schmid coming out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Once again, another backup goaltender haunting the Rangers in the playoffs.
They had to make a change, and he's making them look like geniuses right now. So we'll see where these things go. Maybe some get wrapped up tonight. Maybe some don't. But either way, nothing's going to surprise me. That's why this is the greatest postseason in sports, if you ask me, because it's just so unpredictable. So, all right, we're going to wrap it up there. So thank you for tuning in, making it your first listen of the day. We'll be back next week on Thursday. If we didn't do a ranking this week, obviously, but I would assume if the everything's wrapped up by then, which it should be a week from now. We'll rank the remaining teams. I'm guessing. I don't know. We'll have to see.
Yeah, hopefully both our teams are still playing, and hopefully hopefully the Kings have played by then. So.
Actually, they just removed a game from them for some reason. So we're back to Game 4. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Like I said, making it your first listen. Really appreciate that. From Locked On Lightning, he is Mr. Adam Denker. I'm Chris Maselli from Locked On Avalanche. And enjoy the games. See you next week.